Our feelings influence how an interview goes. If we are having a bad day, or if we're hungry, or if we, the physical aspect also influences the emotional aspect.
Absolutely.
So if you're tired, you could make some not good decisions too.
Welcome to the Culmen Group Podcast. We believe that the best companies hire the best people, and these organizations have the influence to make the world a better place. Our goal is to serve our listeners through our stellar and knowledgeable guests and the topics we cover, such as mental health, employee engagement, leadership, and more, in order to enrich the communities we serve. I'm so excited to have on the show today Monique Russell. And she is going to talk to us about all things communication. But please introduce yourself. I think you do a great job with it. And give us a little brief history of your background, what you're currently doing. And I'm excited to have you on the show.
Well, first of all, I am excited to be here. I'm looking forward to a very rich and engaging conversation with you. Great. So I am Monique Russell, and I am from the beautiful islands of the Bahamas.
Wish we were all there now.
Woo, yes, and also Nigeria. And what my company does is focus on providing communication skills, training, developing, coaching, consulting to leaders and teams so they can have positive and productive relationships at home and at work.
Yes.
So how I got started,
please.
I will say, well, I grew up in the islands.
Yes, so I do.
Everything starts at home. My mom, before she moved into becoming a teacher, she was in the hospitality industry.
Okay.
In tourism. And I credit her with pretty much almost everything that has been influenced in my life today.
Yeah.
So she spent her entire life becoming a teacher and serving as a teacher. And I learned a lot from her just as she was developing herself. Went off to school. I studied communications, ended up with 3 degrees in communications. Didn't really get into full broadcast journalism.
Okay.
But I found myself in executive support and supporting leaders, helping them to make decisions. At first, I was like, that's not where I want to be. But because I had my communication skills background, I became very quickly a sounding board, someone to give advice, to or ask for how to handle complex situations with employee engagement.
Right.
And now I see how very instrumental it has been in what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
So that journey from the Bahamas to the cold snow of Minnesota.
That's where you decided to go to school.
That's where I landed. It was so cold. But I loved it, though. I loved that place. It was very, I have a lot of good memories from there. But right now, where I'm focused, I started my business in 2008 as a side thing, freelance thing, nothing intentional. However, throughout the years, I got really, really clear, really focused. You start off, you have a lot of interesting journeys, struggles, obstacles, insights. You're trying to figure it all out. And I have learned and grown over the past 20 years or so in my industry, where I'm now able to focus on helping people to use effective communications tools to help them have those relationships they desire.
Yeah. So what are you seeing right now as you talk with folks that are saying, "Hey, Monique, I want some help with communication." I mean, is that what they say, or is it more life skills? I mean, how do they approach you?
Oh man, I could just talk about from this morning.
Yeah, please do.
So there's so many things so many different aspects of communication that people reach out to me for. This morning, I had 2 different conversations. One was a gentleman who was really looking for more ways to find clarity in his life, clarity in his business. This is the situation where you are a leader and you have so many ideas, and you're a creative individual, and you just really need to find a way to prioritize, use effective decision making. That's the aspect of emotional intelligence that I would use in that instance. But just really trying to help him see how to narrow down and prioritize the task and the ideas that he has in front of him.
Right.
And then I had a conversation with another lady, and she is in the finance sector, and she was pretty much looking for ways to move to her next level. So in terms of communication, what we can look at is looking at the strengths, looking at the skill sets, looking at the relationship building tools and processes. I mean, what is your relational capital like within your organization? So those are two different conversations that I had today, but people ask me for all sorts of different things. You know, how do I work with my team? How do I get my team to do team building? Last week, I had an organization reach out for unconscious bias training. There's so many.
So I like the unconscious bias training. So talk to me about unconscious biases.
Oh, wait. Wow. Whoa. Great. All right. We got to go here today. So unconscious biases, we all have them.
We do.
We all have them because we are human beings. And we have to find ways to make sure that we can bring the awareness to the surface and see how those biases impact our decision making. Ultimately, you're going to look at the way that it's impacting your decision making negatively, if it's hurting your bottom line, if it's hurting the way you do your productivity in your organization, or if it's having a negative impact on your employees. This is where most of the time, this is where it comes from, right? If you're having a problem, you're looking for someone to come in and help you with training. You're not normally proactively looking to say, okay, you know, we're doing good. How can we do better? Very, very rarely do you find someone reaching out for training because they're just so great and they just want to move to the next level.
Yeah,
but that's really the time when you want to.
That's right. But so what's a good example of an unconscious bias?
Good example. Well, there's many. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out a good example.
I'll tell you. So one I hear a lot is millennials are lazy. Would that be an example?
That can be an example. Yes. Yes.
So if I'm in charge of hiring somebody and I have this unconscious bias that maybe just millennials, because their ways of working are different, doesn't necessarily mean that they're not, they couldn't be top performers. They just are different. You know, it's a different way that they approach the workplace.
Of course, just like everybody else. And so that is a surface level view or perspective. And when we look at, we're allowing the surface level view to automatically take front and center, rather than stopping and pausing and really examining the situation, looking at the skill sets, looking at the needs of what the organization is requiring, and then making a sound and solid decision. A lot of times our biases are automatic and they come to the front when we're tired or when we're stressed or when we don't have a lot of time to make decisions. So we go to that part of the brain that pulls on what is familiar or what we have already been conditioned to believe.
Right.
And sometimes we just don't even know. Like the other day, I was in a conference in a presentation and the lady did a great job. She was giving examples. But one of the examples that she used, she said, you know, I'm not saying you got to be schizophrenic or anything. So you laughed, right? That's an unconscious bias.
No, but it's
you see what I'm saying?
Well, I wasn't laughing. Well, I wasn't laughing at what you said. I was laughing because I get that that's an unconscious bias, but we say that, and it's really not kind to the folks that are, you know, suffer with mental health, right?
Absolutely.
But I guess sometimes those things are funny because we just say the oddest things.
No, but they're not funny. That's the thing.
Not funny that we say them, but it's funny that it's interesting that somebody would actually say that, but it's unconscious, right?
That's the thing. So it's triggered, and it is triggered in a way that it might seem funny because we haven't really paid attention to the fact that it's not.
I know. It's like I asked.
It's so deep that it's hard to see.
It is until we bring it to the surface,
front. Right? That's right.
It's you know, it's like we have this discussion in our household about which is the better Coke. Is it Dr. Pepper? Is it Sprite? Is it root beer? Now those are all not Coke products, but because, you know, we're raised in the South, every soda or soft drink is Coke. And it's just, I laugh because it's, you know, when I was growing up, I never really knew that anything that wasn't bubbly and flavored wasn't called a Coke.
Yes,
right?
That's a great example.
But that's a good example of just just being unconscious that everything that's flavored and bubbly is a Coke.
Right. And that is because that's what you grew up with.
That's right.
So that is the conditioning that you have been exposed to. So it's easy for you to pull on that.
Right.
When I was growing up in the islands, one of the things would be cereal. So you just say you're going to have cereal. It's not that you're going to have different types of cereal, but you're going to have cereal, or you refer to something as the brand as opposed to the different aspects within the brand. So, in a similar fashion, especially when we're dealing with people that are unlike us and we are not familiar with their values, their systems, their beliefs, their cultures. And I'll talk about cultures for a little bit, because when you are able to step outside of your culture and you're traveling and you're learning, you're able to become more creative. You're able to bring different ideas, and that's really what we need now.
That's what we need.
That's what we need.
Well, and I think, what do you think about just having that conversation of, look, I'm from the South, and here's my group of folks that, we're all on a team. If I say something that is out of line, let's talk about it, rather than just assume that it's a negative bias. It's just, sometimes we just need to have that conversation that that not everything's a Coke.
Yeah.
Not everything's cereal, and it's not intentional a lot of times, right?
Yes. That's beautiful. In a perfect world, let's just talk about it, would work. But in reality, so many of our conditionings and so many of the things that we believe to be true, they are so deeply embedded with us. But if we can choose to reframe it, and if we can choose to say or take the approach that I would suggest, that we all have biases, we are going to make mistakes, we are going to mess up, we are going to have slip-ups that are negative.
Yeah.
Know that. You are going to have it, I'm going to have
Absolutely.
it too.
Yeah.
Know that. And from that aspect, or from that point, being able to really focus on the human, being able to bring that love back into the business space.
That's right.
Like, just focus on being human and being able to see that person in their fullest potential, in their fullest expression of who they are, even when they are not displaying the behaviors of someone who's operating in their full expression.
I like that. That's perfectly said. How do we do it?
We start with having these real conversations. We start with creating an environment or a space where it's safe to talk about it.
That's right.
And without judgment. And to be honest, to say, okay, I have biases too. You have bias. Let's talk about it, and not shutting it down or not being judgmental or denying the fact that it does exist. That's the first part. The first part is really having more conversations and normalizing them. Normalizing them so that it becomes a point where it's as easy as us talking about Coke or talking about what you're going to do for vacation.
Yeah, it should be if we were, but that goes into emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah, you cannot have a training that you're looking to influence perspective or expand someone's perspective without incorporating emotional intelligence.
Right.
Because it's something that you do from the inside out, not the outside in. And it's not something where the other day I saw something, emotional intelligence in 1 hour. I was like, what a bunch of rubbish. I mean, come on. Yes, you can have insights. Yes, you can have awareness in 10 minutes. You can. But giving them the opportunity to practice, to continue to develop the skills of practicing emotional intelligence, that takes time.
It does. Yeah, and I think lots of travel would help.
Yeah, right? Lots of travel, and outside the touristy areas. You can't just be on the all-inclusive resort now. You're not going to learn anything much like that.
You gotta get into the landscape, into the country.
Travel with a purpose.
Yeah, I think that would. It raises your awareness that not everybody's like you.
Yes.
And People come from different backgrounds, different diversity, different mindsets.
Of course.
So talk about mindsets that we don't all see things the same way.
We don't. Even if I were to take your cup that we have right here on the table, can we bring that cup right here? So if you hold that way, and you and I are looking at the same cup, but what I see is blue, and what you see is what?
I see a bicycle.
I don't see a bicycle.
That's right.
But we're looking at the
But
same
I'm going to
cup.
say, no, Monique, there's a bicycle
Stop,
here.
great. I see blue. So you're wrong and I'm right.
No.
I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
We're not. We're both right because
That's
we're
right.
seeing it. We're seeing it differently, right?
Yeah.
And that is where our mindsets are shaped from our experiences from childhood, from development, from just all of the belief systems, our spirituality, our beliefs, our goals. Those things shape how we see situations.
They do.
Two people can look at the same thing and see it differently. One isn't better. It's just that we have to see it from a different perspective.
Right.
So in terms of shaping your mindset and getting to know yourself, this thing just don't want to behave,
Yes,
right?
I know.
So in terms of shaping your mindset, you really want to spend some time in introspection. A lot of us know that we have to spend time in introspection, but we can't see the picture from inside the frame. So we need an outside guide, or we need to have facilitated introspection so we could really point out the blind spots.
So how do you do that? Talk to me about facilitated introspection.
So you can work with a coach.
Okay.
People who are in the wellness industry, like you,
Like
right?
me.
You can use a coach, you can use a therapist, you can use journaling prompts. Changing your environment helps because let's say we have a conversation where we are talking about something difficult or stressful in this room, and I want you to be able to see it from a different aspect. I'll tell you. There was a guy that I coached who had a conversation in his boardroom. They were having a meeting, discussing their topics, and different ideas were exchanged, and, kind of shut someone down who raised a point. And he later on felt a little bit bad about that. But what we want to suggest is that you don't have that conversation when you're trying to remedy a challenge or a situation that's been difficult, to have that conversation outside of the environment where the conflict occurred.
So important.
So that's just, one thing that he could do to begin to open up that whole conversation, open that awareness. And then when we bring it back to the whole facilitated introspection, it's the same thing. So you want to make sure that you have an opportunity to change your environment, because your environment does influence how you think. Cluttered environment, cluttered mind.
Well, and even just if you're trying to have an emotional conversation, emotional intelligent conversation, or you're trying to have a selective bias conversation, right? A boardroom sets kind of the stage. That's not really, that's not necessarily a good environment. Maybe, out in nature or something, because there's posturing that's involved with a lot of that. Not intentional, but it's, I noticed that that if it's a table, that certain posturing, somebody will sit at the head of the table. Now, that doesn't really mean anything other than in my environment where I was raised, the head of the household sat at the head of the table. So there's some biases there that you almost have to, I think, as a leader, be conscious of that so that you don't set the stage that way, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like you just reiterated when you were growing up, who sat at the table was the head, right? So that's automatic. When you see someone sitting at the head, that is a nonverbal communication.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say.
For you or for whomever.
Right.
So I remember when I was doing some team training for one of my clients here in Atlanta, and the leader was also included in the team training. And it was actually in the conference room. And, she would typically sit at the table. Well, I made the arrangements so that she would sit in the middle. And immediately you could see the change when her team came in. They're like, oh,
What's going on here?
Yeah, automatically.
Yeah.
And it's no different if you are having a training environment and you have your seating structured in a classroom style, or if you have a seating structured in a circular motion. It all communicates different things. But the point of using that example is that we have the facilitated,
and it's okay if
we have the facilitated introspection.
I did coordinate those to match your outfit.
Did you?
If you don't want to wear them, it's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah. No, you don't need to. No, it's really to help you out. I can give you cues from Isaac.
It doesn't. Isaac, come on. It didn't stay in.
But you don't. I mean, just leave them out.
Let's take them off.
Yeah, I'll give you cues if needed. So the environment, and I like what you're saying there, because I didn't realize that many years ago that that unbiased posturing actually took place.
How'd you realize it?
Well, I think just through a lot of reading, trying to better understand why certain meetings went a certain way, why conversations tend to become more richer for reasons and other, so it's just trying to figure out, okay, how do you replicate that authenticity and get to real conversations? And I noticed that, that's a state of awareness where it's like, okay, well, if I do this or these kinds of things, then the conversation tends to open up in many cases, and people are not as guarded or postured. But yeah, it took a lot of failed attempts to have good conversations.
That's called experience. We learn from experience. Yeah. And I mean, I've been in this field for a number of years, and I am constantly growing and I'm constantly learning, but I have bad times too.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to know anything, but everything. I'm sorry, no one's going to know everything. But you will have more experience and more depth and competency in the area as long as you continue to grow and develop.
Yeah. No, and I think that I really believe there's a huge need for that right now. I mean, it seems in many cases, not that I watch a ton of news, but it seems like the leaders of America are not acting emotionally wise from an intelligence standpoint. It seems there's improvement there to have deeper conversations.
Yeah.
But I think that's, I say that because I think that's kind of a mirror of where many organizations are in America, and I think that we can, be more love and kind.
Absolutely. A lot of the research has already shown that the leaders set the stage.
That's right.
So it's difficult to manage up, although as John Maxwell says, it can be done.
It can be done.
It's difficult to delegate up as well, but it can be done. So I like to focus on the things that we can control. I like to focus on the things that we have in our sphere of influence, because sometimes if we are too focused on something that we can't control, we miss the opportunities to make the impact right in front of us.
That's right.
And our teams are looking for guidance. Our teams, our peers, our family members, our children, our spouses, they're looking for us to be guided. And as leaders, it is your job. You are required to spend significant time working on yourself. You have to upgrade your mind and upgrade your skill set. If you find that you're being consumed by media, turn it off. Turn it off because you're planting a seed. And what comes out of the mouth comes out of the heart. Like, seriously, you can tell. And you talked earlier about the tactical aspects of communication. That's what I see a lot of leaders want to work on, their executive presence. They want to be seen as strong. They want to be, why do you want to be seen as strong? Are you strong? Are you really strong? Why do you want to be seen as strong? Some people just want to be seen one way and they want to feel better as opposed to becoming better.
Right.
And so we have to have the real conversation about about where we are today in society, this is 21st century America. We are in the fourth industrial revolution. We have to have real conversations about empowering people to go inside instead of still focusing on those external trappings, because the people that I see and the people that I hear and their stories, on the outside, they're winning. They're winning. They're very successful. They have money in the bank. They have awards. They've written books. And their personal life is in shambles. And you can never tell what someone, the face of someone who is happy looks like this.
Yeah.
The face of someone who's sad looks like this.
Yeah.
You can't tell. You can't tell just by looking. There are some behaviors that you can pick up, but ultimately what I'm here for, why my company is here, is to help individuals truly get in touch with themselves so that they don't have to do the puppet show. They don't have to do the semantics gymnastics. They don't have to do the tactical pieces of relationship building. They can actually just build relationships because they've built themselves.
That's right. So how do you do that? What are some just practical ideas for somebody that wants to work on the inside?
Work on the inside, you have to first define and design yourself.
Okay.
You need to be able to identify what success looks like for you.
Okay.
Most of the times people have success metrics of getting a promotion. I've worked with clients who tell me, I just want to get this, I want to get this. And when we really peel back the layers to that onion and we figure out why you want to get it, you really don't know.
Yeah.
It's just because that's a goal that society has told you should get, or your parents or whatever have you. So if you don't really get clear on what success looks like for you, you will always be in an endless cycle of chasing what that next thing is. And when you get that next thing, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
So you have to define and then design yourself first.
Right. So that's, so you're talking about the trappings or the outward, the outward things that are going to make us or
appear successful,
or we think that's going to make us happy. Is I get this promotion, I get this job, I get this house, I meet this person. These are the things that are going to make me happy. But you're talking about inner engineering.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So what's the process of doing that?
The first thing that you want to do is get yourself someone who is a skilled coach.
Okay.
And
Monique Russell.
Yeah, look, I just got to say it. I would not plug it if I didn't get results. I am telling you because I've already done this work myself.
Okay.
And I've spent time, I've hired my own coaches, I have my own mentors, I've gone to therapy, and I'm very clear in what success looks like for me. It may not be exactly what it looks like for someone else. So I would say get yourself a facilitated expert, a consultant who can move you through the process of defining and designing yourself. That's the first thing. If you think all you're going to do is pick up a book and read, it's not going to be enough because you're going to have gaps. Right. So you need to have that outside external support who's committed to seeing you win. And then you can move through that whole process. That's the first and most critical step. After you're able to do that, you can then take the lead. You can bring your unique personality into the whole conversation of emotional intelligence. I want to say, look at people like Richard Branson, Indra Nooyi, Oprah Winfrey. These are leaders who have found themselves, and because they have found and defined who they are, they're able to bring their personality, which is unique in their space, to take the lead. Yeah. That's the authentic conversation that we have. How do I be authentic? How do I, be myself? How do I show up in a genuine way? You have to know who you are. You have to be gentle with yourself. Those are the steps. Yeah. And once you identify what success looks like for you, once you identify the feelings, once you identify your strengths, identify your weaknesses, get a full understanding of how you are perceived and where you can grow, then you can start to craft your own life plan.
That's right. Yeah. So, but then that means that new car's not going to make me happy.
It may not make you happy, or it may make you happy temporarily.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, let's say we are facing a disaster like we're in right now, or it may not even be something with like a healthcare disaster or a scare. I'm from the Bahamas. Not too long ago, there was a very devastating hurricane.
Yeah.
The hurricane did not stop at people's doorstep and say, oh, this one has a Ferrari. oh, this one has a BMW. Oh, this is the VP of so-and-so.
Yeah.
The janitor, the VP, the high school student, the elementary school student, the water came to everyone's home.
Yeah.
And in those moments, they are equalizers. And when you are being equalized, now without your fancy trapping, who can you pick up the phone and call when you are in distress? Yeah. Many people don't feel like they have more than one person that truly gets them and that they can actually pick up the phone, call them, and they care about them. We are in one of the most loneliest periods. America has been listed as we're in a loneliness epidemic, right? And we cannot continue this way.
No, we can't. And it's sad because we're so connected, but we're so disconnected. I mean, it's all right. It's all because we've bought into this vision of who we should be.
Yes.
And we've not really spent a whole lot of time alone.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. I bought into the vision.
No,
I bought into the vision that all I need to do was go to school, get a good job, get my degrees, have a family, and life would be perfect.
Perfect.
Great. Not great.
No. No.
Not great. That was the story that I was sold. And when you have a story that you're sold and you have those expectations in life and they don't match up, your expectations and what you think you should be doing don't match up, you have inner turmoil.
Right.
I was still doing a great job. I was making all my deliverables. I was being very successful. I was accomplishing in the external sense of the word, but inside I still didn't feel like I was living up to my full potential. Life happened. I had my kids, my family. Things just got on that rotational wheel. And before you knew it, I lost confidence. Confidence in the things that I knew I could have done in my sleep, things that I really, really enjoyed. And I did not lose it overnight. It's not something that I say tomorrow, great, can you get me some confidence down at the CVS? I need some.
Yeah.
It's a slow cooker.
Yeah, it is.
But when it happens, you will know.
Yeah.
You'll feel different. So it will take some new sense of awareness, some exposure. Sometimes people get, awakened through disaster or through medical challenge or through loss or grief or, whatever. They come to a new level of awareness through a life-altering moment or something that they've been exposed to, some vision that they've been exposed to, vision or pain, right? Vision, pain, or gain. And that becomes a defining moment for now a new charted course. But we don't have to wait for that.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. We don't have to wait.
No.
For the hurricane to be knocking on the door.
We don't.
To realize, this isn't what it's all meant to be. The chasing, the grabbing, everything external, right? We can be content in a way. So that's what your work is about, is not waiting for the disaster.
That's right.
So you're not originally from this culture of seeking and grabbing and goal setting and those things. How did you get trapped into it?
Trapped into
the cycle of America.
So it's not an American cycle.
No?
It's a world cycle. Everywhere in the world, people want to be the best. They want to be seen.
Okay.
They want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged and recognized. And as long as you have media and you have been exposed to media or you have been conditioned to follow a path that will help you to become that success, then that's what you'll pursue. So my cultural background in the islands is from the Bahamas and also Nigeria, and they have both similar strivings in terms of academics.
Okay.
So academics is the way, you know, you have a PhD, you are the big you're a lawyer, you are, oh, my son is a lawyer.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
my son is a doctor. Yes. So, you know, now you have the parent who is extremely proud. Sometimes parents are so, I won't even say motivating. They just aggressive, pushing their kids, trying to go and get them to do something because we want our kids to do better than we have done.
Right.
We want our kids to have better opportunities. But sometimes that becomes also a downfall because now the child hasn't found themselves and they can't find what they're good at. And they haven't been exposed to a variety of things because it's just been this one path. So in terms of me following that path, everybody in the islands that I know, you got to go and get an education.
Okay.
Go to school.
Okay.
My mother was an educator. I have hundreds, I can't say hundreds, but you know, I have a lot of educators in my family.
Okay.
And so one thing that I was, what was impressed upon me was a love for learning.
Okay.
It was a love for learning. There were a lot of things my mom could not teach me and my grandparents couldn't teach me, and we love them. But what they did instill in me was a love for learning. And that love for learning has allowed me to find the pivot. I was telling someone earlier today, she said, "What's your middle name?" I said, "You better call me Monique Pivot Russell." Because I've been pivoting and I've taught and shown people how to pivot. And now we are in a time of uncertainty, but what is very certain is that you can pivot. You don't have to wait at the time. You don't have to be ashamed now because everybody is trying to find their footing. And the most difficult thing, especially in situations like this, is that you're now being thrown into the digital space. And if you haven't had a presence, and if you are a no brand and you are invisible, you can now learn tools to become visible and become relevant as a leader, as a business owner, as a professional.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like the pivot. I think that's exactly what folks need, right? It is if you're not feeling fulfilled, if you're lonely, if you really only have one person you could call in a disaster, now's the time to pivot. Right?
Yes, pivot in your relationships. The business world is about relationships. It's about know, like, and trust. And if you're not able to get strong and solid within yourself and clear on yourself and clear on your skill sets, then it will be difficult for you to engage with those that you work with. Your customers will struggle. Your peers on your team will struggle because you're not clear. So let's say a situation comes up in your organization and now you have infighting. You have infighting because someone looks like they're going to take over your project, or your project has been reassigned to someone, and you feel so attached to this project because this project means more to you than just the project. It's tied to your identity and your self-worth and, you know, who does that person think they are? And now you have resentment building in the team. And all of that is sort of a self-sabotage of infestation. When you can bring someone in who can expose your team, the team needs help, but you as a leader need help too. So we need to focus on continuous learning and development together. Before, we'd have the executive coaches come in and work with leaders. It was a special, privileged thing, only the elites, whatever. Now it's accessible to many. And it is one of the fastest ways to maximize your individual human potential, coaching, because you're working on the mind. The mind, you can take people out of poverty. You can take them out of unfulfilling jobs. But you want to try and change somebody's mind? Good luck. Good luck. You cannot change someone's mind from the outside. You can only inspire them. You can only inspire them. So you as a leader, you need to be learning alongside your team. We're in a space where you have to have continuous learning and you have to upskill. You have to upgrade your mindset. And if no one's talking to you about this or creating the space for you to have training conversations, sprinkling in that emotional intelligence, then it's just going to be a constant struggle. You're going to have more people leaving the team. Retention especially is a very hard thing. The millennials, they'll just leave. Yeah, they're like, peace out.
Yeah,
you know, my son's graduating, and look, if it's not right, if you are mistreating your employees, they will leave.
Yes, they will. And I love what you were talking about, attachment. You know, I think if we can not be attached to the titles, to what the position is as a leader, you know, that you've got 50 people, 100 people, 5,000 people under you, that your salary is this, your car is this, if we get rid of all those attachments, and then really deal with who we are, employees will notice, right?
Of course, they will notice.
That's what they'll feel. And I think when leaders do that, then the conversation can change amongst the employees.
Absolutely.
And we stop hiding behind all of those attachments, because that's all they really are attachments.
They are, and we are attached to those external things, and we feel like they will bring us fill the emotional voids that we have, whatever they are. Everything is emotional. Tell me the last time you didn't have an emotional conversation.
Yeah.
You can't, because we are emotional beings that think. We're not thinking beings. That's the way our brain operates. It goes through the emotional part of our brain before it gets to the logical part of our brain. So everything comes through that, and that's the way we are wired. If you are able as a leader to go within yourself and to remove yourself from all of those external, I have to be the big dog, I have to be the boss, I have to be the big dictator, which that ivory tower leader thing is crumbling now anyway. Nobody's looking for that. No. You have to flatten that out. So you have to be able to shift, and it's hard to shift when you have spent years in that conditioning. What a leader should look like, how a leader should behave, how we have to always have our game face and poker face on. Vulnerability has never been something that you would use as a leadership tool, but it's very effective. There's a right way and there's a wrong way to do that, but it's very effective. So we're not going to put all the responsibility on the leader. We're going to put the responsibility on the employees as well, because now we are in this together.
That's right.
We're all learning together. We're not looking to create division. You're growing, I'm growing, we're growing together. So organizations that want to really do good by their employees, they're spending so much time at work anyway. They need to look at their benefits package and bring corporate spirituality in the workplace.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
You have to bring meditation. You have to bring wellness. You have to bring emotional intelligence. They're spending all their time there anyway. Bring what they need. In all of these foosball tables and pizza every day. I mean, great, but it's really not helping to transform the individual that you want to help them get the most out of their day at work. Because they leave and they dump it on their kids.
Yes.
And they dump it on their spouse. And now we have a repetitive cycle.
Yeah, and then they bring, it's like, we don't want the whole person at work.
No.
Right?
We just want half of you.
Yeah, we just want
the good side grade.
don't bring that family stuff to work. Don't bring your kids' illnesses or any of that stuff. We just need the good side here.
No, it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. And I love the corporate spirituality, the spending time on who you are. I don't think we have those conversations that, look, Monique, I want all of you here. And if at any point you've grown past where we're at, that's fine too. And I'll help you with the transition. You don't just have to give me a 2-week notice and leave. It's we want all of you. And at any point that this doesn't work, let's talk about it. But we need to have more of those conversations.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's
Who said
right.
that? Maya
Stephen
Angelou.
Covey. Was it Maya Angelou?
Yeah,
okay.
I believe so.
I'll take it.
Hey, but it's true.
It is true.
So us having the conversation, if there is a lack of genuine care, people know, man.
Yeah, they know.
People know. I could fake it all the time. I could look at you, turn my head to the left, look and, bring my eyes up and shake and smile and be like, really? Yeah, great. I could repeat the last phrases that you said to give you the appearance that I really give a crap about what you're talking about, and I could be all the way in another country in my mind. People can tell when you're not genuine and when you really don't care. It comes through and they know. So when we're having that conversation, we can't just say we're going to have the conversation about if you want to leave. I mean, you have to earn the right to be exposed or invited into a difficult conversation or a challenging conversation.
That's
if
true.
you think about the leaders that in your life that you have respected the most, think about someone right now, great, that you have respected the most. Like you're like, man, this leader is the boss. This leader just really made a difference in my life.
Yeah.
Think about that person. Got him?
I think so.
Okay. So what are some of the things that person did? Why have they been so influential to you?
You know, I think the personality traits were just the openness. They were not afraid to make mistakes. The communication was always there. There was very little of the you know, exactly what you said. There was very little of the corporate kind of stuff. It was just, hey, you're a person, I'm a person. We got a job to do. Let's figure out how to do it. But there wasn't that posturing, you know, and you know, it was just a you know, it certainly felt like a partnership more than, you know, a hierarchy of I'm your boss.
Oh, I like that. Leaders as partners.
Yeah, so it was a partner, and everything was cool. So if I didn't agree with something, then it was open to discuss. It didn't always mean that I got my way, but we could talk about it. And yeah, so I mean, it was a really good relationship.
So that same person, did they ever give you difficult feedback?
Oh, absolutely. But it was constant, right? So I mean, it wasn't ever like, hey, we need to have a talk. You know?
That's the trigger, I think, with anybody.
You know, it wasn't those kinds of things. It was just like, hey, you know, how can we do this better? How can we achieve this? And, you know, and then, you know, I would make mistakes, and then it would be like, okay, so it was never, you made a mistake. It was, you know, how can we learn from this? And because I think most people want to do a good job. And I think a lot of times the feedback is we let them get so far down the wrong path before we really give them any feedback, right? And I think she was more like what we see in a coach is, you know, if you're dribbling the basketball and you do it the wrong way, it's, hey, that's the wrong way to do it. But if you get used to that and you get used to, hey, how can we do this better? How can we do that better? How can we do this? Then you're getting coached all the time. And it's never really that hard feedback. It's just a constant guiding, you know, down the path. You felt she had your best interest? Absolutely. Well, my best interest, but also the best interest of our mission, of our, you know, of the team. You know, it wasn't necessarily a, you know, she wasn't posturing me to be anybody. It was just, yeah, it was like, hey, let's do it this way, you know. But yeah, I think it was definitely a best interest. But, you know, sometimes I think the best interest is that they want me to be successful. And I think that was part of it, but it wasn't just about success. It was just about life. That's it. So it wasn't just workplace success. It wasn't, you know, it was just, hey, you know, what's going on here, what's going on there. But it was that partnership, that relationship of, you know, I could call and we could talk about most anything. And it was because from the very beginning, it was, there was no, it wasn't a hierarchy, right? It wasn't a, you know, she was just relaxed, and wanted to make sure that it was a fit, you know, when I was interviewing for the job. Man, you hit on so many things right there in your sharing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I mean, just your positive experience with her, the way she engaged, you talk about, you even bring up the hiring process, you know, making sure you have the right fit from the beginning. Yeah. Nowadays,
I don't know. Some people are having very difficult time hiring or even being able to determine, who would work well in the team. So,
well, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about, I think if they're having those struggles, it's because they don't know themselves personally. Like they don't know who they are, right? Because if you don't know and you don't have a feeling, and it's not just a vision that you've written out on a paper, but if you don't have a feeling of your culture, then you're not going to be able to recognize that person when they're right across from you. You're just not. It was said that, one of my favorite sayings is that a pickpocket, someone that picks pockets, when they meet the Buddha, all they see is pockets.
Because they can't even see the Buddha.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what it is in a lot of cases when we're interviewing somebody. They could be the perfect candidate or the wrong candidate, but if we don't know ourselves, how are we going to know who the perfect candidate is?
And a lot of times, too, our feelings influence how an interview goes. If we are having a bad day or if we're hungry or if we, the physical aspect also influences the emotional aspect.
Absolutely.
So if you're tired, you could make some not good decisions too.
But I think if we just say that, right? If we say, hey, Monique, thanks for coming in the interview. I've been up all night. I'm tired. Then you've recognized the feeling, but that's also not going to influence as much as if, well, I'm the manager. I can't be tired. I can't be hungry. And then that suppresses everything. Then I do think that now that we're trying to hold all this negative physical emotions back, that it clouds our but I think if we just say, look, I'm tired, I'm hungry, let's go get something to eat.
Yes, go get something to eat. How about that? Do an interview over lunch if you're hungry.
Yeah, just say, look, listen, let's just talk. I don't really want to talk about all this because I'm tired, but just tell me about you. I mean, how tired? I mean, you can be extremely tired, but if you're just listening to somebody tell their story, that's going to energize you.
It might, or it might not.
All right, well, if it's a bad story.
No, even if it's a good story. Come on, great. Even if it's a good story, fatigue is something that will impair our thinking. And even if I'm trying to write I'm right-handed. If I'm trying to write with my left hand and I say, great, I'm really right-handed. So, I mean, just bear with me now. Yeah. I am still going to have some scribbly scribbles.
That's right.
No matter how strong my intention or desire is to say, you know what, I'm right-handed and I'm writing with my left hand. So just really acknowledging that these are things that do cloud our decision making. It makes some of our decisions faulty because we can take that same decision on a different day at a different time. I don't remember who it was, but I think it was Daniel Pink that might have talked about this research where the certain times of the day were very critical in how people received information. So between mornings, between early afternoons, between late afternoon, basically the time significantly influenced the outcomes. And they took that same premise and they took it over to kids' testing scores. And they had the same kids do the same test. And based on what time the children took the test, if it was in the morning or if it was in the late afternoon, the timing significantly influenced the outcome of the score. So the timing is critical.
It is.
We just can't just say, ignore that there are factors outside of our control that influence the way we interpret things. So if we can reduce some of those as much as possible, we're always going to make mistakes, but if we can reduce some of those as much as possible, it would just help us to make better decisions and then bringing in other views, other viewpoints. So you and I can look at something separately, but if we look at it together, we can say, oh, okay, now we can come up with a better decision.
No, I think that's so wise. And I think that if we can all be more aware that of all of those things, conscious biases, timing, our emotional intelligence, just know that there's so much more going on than what's right here. And I think leaders and through leaders, communities will all be better.
Yes. And we are better. We are the best we can be right now.
I agree.
And our continuous development will continue to make us better.
So Thanks so much for being on the show. How can folks get in touch with you? What's the best way?
You could get me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much on LinkedIn every week, a couple times a week.
Okay.
Monique Russell, Claire Communication Coach. You can call me at 706-963-0322. You can go to my website, Claire Communication Coach, or just Google me, Monique Russell, Claire Communication Coach.
Please get in touch with Monique. She will absolutely change you as an individual, your organization, and your teams. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Great. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks.